This is pretty unusual. We have no idea where it came from.
In late August, a North Central EMS crew idling at this Friendship store on Milan Avenue came across a most unusual find, a heart in a Ziploc bag. Sergeant Jim Fulton says the heart was in good condition and had only just started to decompose. He says there's no indication it was part of a violent crime.
I talked to the Lucas County coroner, and she seemed to think that it hadn't been in that field very long, and it could have possibly been frozen prior to that.
Initially, the paramedic who discovered it actually put it in a dumpster nearby, but was later instructed to retrieve it for an investigation. Fulton says they don't even know if a crime has been committed here.
We don't have a body that we're missing a heart from. So I guess it's an unusual occurrence, is what you would say. And I think that's what our report listed under at this point. We hope to be able to classify that as something else and close this out.
A coroner is testing the fluid from the heart to see if there are any preservatives, and a vet is trying to rule out if the heart came from an animal.
It could have come from a funeral home, an autopsy. I mean, there's endless possibilities.
Mom in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is accused of trying to kill her own 8-year-old son by slashing him across the throat. Police say the reason she gave is that Jesus told her to do it. According to arrest documents, police were called to an apartment on Mission Drive after a neighbor called saying that Gloria Ross had cut her son across his throat. The victim had reportedly ran to the neighbor for help, claiming his mom cut him with a serrated kitchen knife. Witnesses told police that they heard the victim screaming loudly and saw Ross holding the knife. Police say the 8-year-old boy and his sister were able to run to another neighbor's apartment for safety. The boy treated at a local hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Ross has been charged for attempted first-degree murder and second-degree cruelty to a juvenile.
According to the New York Post, a pagan priest was granted the right to wear his goat horns in his main driver's license photo. Phelan Moonsong made headlines in August after he protested to removing his horns for his ID picture. A spokeswoman for the Maine Secretary of State office said after reviewing the case, they decided to let Moonsong wear the goat horns for religious purposes and because they didn't obstruct his face. These types of license photos are actually not that rare. Last year, a Pastafarian was allowed to wear a spaghetti strainer on her head. And according to WPXI, earlier this year, a man was allowed to wear a fox hat for religious reasons in his license photo.
People all along the square and couldn't find anyone who was reacting positively to this lawsuit. That's because a lot of them say this tree has lit up the square here in Knightstown for as long as they can remember, but the cross at the top might not be here much longer.
It's just hard to believe that this is going on.
I think it's kind of ridiculous.
You got to sit down and talk about it before you file the lawsuits.
Every one of the Knightstown residents we found near the square said the same thing. They can't understand why one of their neighbors would sue their town over the annual Christmas display.
In my opinion, I think it's a little bit of disgrace, I think, to our town.
The ACLU filed the lawsuit against Knightstown on behalf of Joseph Tompkins, who lives there. The case documents show Tompkins takes issue with the cross at the top of the tree. It says Tompkins, quote, is forced to come into direct and unwelcome contact with the cross display every day, which has caused him irreparable harm.
A couple weeks ago, they had a crowd here. Everybody was here. They lit the tree. Everybody was fine with it. But now you got one person, you know, out of everybody.
Mark Tompkins is related to Joseph Tompkins. Mark says he doesn't buy the claim that Joe has been harmed in any way by seeing the cross.
There's a church on every corner here. There's a church in every corner. Is he, offended by all the crosses?
The lawsuit does specify that Joe Tompkins doesn't want his taxes helping light and maintain a religious display on town property. A man who lives next to the display says they can solve that by giving Joe his money back.
I think we can find people in this town that can replace that 0.00% of the cent to give to him and not have to worry about it.
Everyone I spoke to says they support the town fighting this legal battle. And if the cross has to come down, Mark Tompkins has a solution for that too.
He can take it down, and I'll tell you what, I'll park this car here until Christmas Day with 3 crosses on it.
I just received an email from the ACL lawyer handling this case. The statement from Joe Tompkins says that what this case is about is the Constitution, and particularly the First Amendment with regard to establishment of religion. At this time, the town council says they don't have a comment yet, so we don't know whether they're going to fight this legal battle, as some say they want them to do, or whether they'll take the cross down.
It's just ridiculous. I'm very offended that the cross was taken down. And I want to put back up. We all want to put back up.
Residents in Knightstown fired up tonight after the town council removes a cross from the town's Christmas tree. That issue boiling over this morning after the town conceded a court case. But residents in that area now fighting back. 24-hour News 8's Howard Monroe spoke with some of them today, and he's here now with where they go from here, Howard.
Yeah, Phil, this all started with one resident who said that in the town that he filed a lawsuit claiming his civil rights were being infringed upon. That suit was then picked up by the ACLU. Residents today said they understood the man's complaint, but say their fight isn't over.
Keep Christ in Christmas, no matter where you're at.
And today, residents in Knightstown were at the town square, demanding a cross be put back on the town's Christmas tree.
Keep the cross.
We're staying out here to protest and keep our cross back for Knightstown.
In an act of defiance, residents were placing their own crosses on the tree. Protesters were also handing out crosses to passersby.
Keep the cross!
Earlier Monday, crews removed the cross from atop the tree. This came after the town council settled a lawsuit over the religious symbol. In a statement, they wrote they regretted the decision and said, "We could not win the court case brought by the ACLU."
We can put crosses in our yards, we can have creches in our yards, but obviously government cannot do that. That's why we have an establishment clause.
Ken Falk is the legal director for the ACLU of Indiana. They represented resident Joseph Tompkins, who brought the suit.
The cross is not a Christmas symbol. The cross is the symbol, the preeminent symbol of Christianity, and it reminds Christians not of the secular trappings of Christmas, but of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus.
God died for us and everything, and just one person can do all this to all of us.
If you can't have Christ in your heart, I don't know what you can have.
And I reached out to each of Knightstown's 5 town council representatives. One got back to me declining an interview, but said this issue will be addressed at a council meeting next week. Howard Monroe, 24-hour News.
So imagine you're standing in line with your kid to see Santa Claus when this happens.
Kids, I wanted to tell you today that there is no such thing as Santa Claus. The man you're going to see today is just a man in a suit. Santa Claus does not exist.
Check out those dirty looks.
There's just no Christmas spirit anymore.
It's the spirit of Jesus.
Hi, it's Pastor Dave Grisham here.
That moved the pastor of Last Frontier Evangelism to rail against Santa.
And parents, y'all need to stop lying to your children and telling them that Santa Claus is real.
Look at those faces. Bet Santa felt like giving the pastor the boot.
Ho, ho, ho.
Pastor Grisham shot this video of himself at Westgate Mall in Amarillo, Texas. He says he'll be doing the same thing at other malls. After shoppers suggested Grisham should be banned from Westgate, the mall manager told CNN, absolutely, we would tell him to leave if he did this thing again. Grisham isn't just a Santa denier.
There are no flying reindeer.
Rudolph, with your nose so bright.
Noses were out of joint among parents standing in line.
Sir, don't put your hands on
Then
me.
go on. Quit talking his mess. You understand me?
Keep
Now
your
stop.
hands to yourself.
Pastor Grisham is perhaps best known for the time he tried to burn a Quran. And talk about naughty. 6 years ago, the same guy didn't just badmouth Santa, he executed it.
Ready, aim, fire. Let's shoot the brace.
Now parents say what he's shooting off is his mouth.
I got my kids over there. We don't need you coming over here blabbing whatever the hell you blabbing.
I'm telling
so
them
go
the
on.
truth.
Jeannie Mo, CNN.
Y'all have a nice day.
Permission from Pope Francis. Priests are now allowed to forgive women for having abortions. In an apostolic letter released by the Vatican, the Pope is granting the power to all priests in the virtue of their ministry to absolve abortion, what the Church still considers a grave sin. The letter reads in part, quote, I wish to restate as firmly as I can that abortion is a grave sin since it puts an end to an innocent life. In the same way, however, I can and must state that there is no sin that God's mercy cannot reach and wipe away when it finds a repentant heart seeking to be reconciled with the Father. May every priest, therefore, be a guide, support, and comfort to penitents on the journey of special reconciliation. The Catholic Church has long held that abortion is a grave moral evil. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says that every human life, from the moment of conception until death, is sacred, and any Catholic who procures an abortion incurs automatic excommunication. Prior to last year, only a bishop or a designated chief confessor of a diocese could forgive a woman who had an abortion. Pope Francis, who in the past has called abortion a horrendous crime, granted special dispensation last year on a temporary basis for the duration of the Catholic Church Year of Mercy. The Year of Mercy, which is a period during which believers may receive special indulgences for their sins, made the permission universal. Pope Francis's change in policy to let all priests absolve the sin of abortion will be extended indefinitely. The evolution of the Pope's stance is further evidence of his vision of a merciful church to those women who, as he has written in the past, felt they had no choice but to make the agonizing and painful decision of having an abortion.
Yeah, hey there guys. These mystery little creatures have a lot of people talking. Let's show you some of the pictures taken by some folks who were walking down here last night. You see those little creatures on your screen there. These pictures were taken in the Huntington State Beach and Huntington City Beach area. We talked to one of the guys who took some of these pictures. He says he was walking down here around 4 o'clock where he says he saw tens, if not hundreds of thousands of these little guys on the shore. And this is a guy who's been walking these beaches for decades, never seen anything like it. Neither did another guy we talked to who's been walking these same beaches for decades, never seen anything like it. Now, if you're looking at those little guys and wondering how they feel, well, one of those guys who took some of those pictures you're looking at did a little demonstration for us. Tell me, what's that feel like?
Feels like Jello. Feels like squishy, gushy. Something if you're a little kid, you'd love to have something like this so you could drop down your sister's shirt.
Now, we reached out to some of the folks at Cal State Long Beach. They took a look at those pictures and they told us they are sea cucumbers. We're still working on what they're doing here, why they're here, and where they're maybe usually at aside from here. Because like I said, folks who've been around here for decades say they've never seen those guys wash up before. Reporting live in Huntington Beach, I'm Chip Yost, KTLA 5 News.